What's up, guys? Justin Napier here with another Old Iron Slides interview. Tonight I have got Mr. Travis Snyder. You guys may know him as, Mopar Maniac on Instagram. He's mostly known for driving a 69 Satellite that's all black. It's the coolest thing ever. Travis, how you doing, man?
Not too bad. I'm doing good over here in Dirtwood. Just chilling with my boy Cash, my dog.
Nice, man. Nice, man. So I've seen you've been real busy on Instagram here lately. Is that car stuff, work stuff? What you got going, man?
It's a mix of both. Putting on, we got a pretty big project at the shop right now, so it's a nice little detour from what I normally am doing. So I like to post the different stuff, you know. Mm-hmm. So it's a big project. So that's why it's getting a little bit of posting with a lot of steel work instead of the usual truck stuff that we do over there. And then the rest has just been promoting the local events that I've been running lately and everything with the car going on. And just trying to promote the next event too, along with it.
So is your next event going to be the Faint or Fright at Summit Point?
Yeah, as of right now, unless I decide to do like a small event over at Capitol just because it's close by in the backyard, essentially. The car's sitting on the trailer. It's easy enough to just run over there with it, yeah. You know. But that's the next main event. Other than that, I got nothing really big planned for the car until Drift Week. Don't need to wear the car out too much before we go, you know.
Oh man,
with the cool stuff we got playing going on.
Yeah, I feel that totally. I've got a slammed October. I'm actually drifting basically every weekend for the next 5 weekends, and I'm like, man, is my car gonna make it through all this? How long have you been drifting? Is that your first drift car, or like tell us a little bit about like your history and how you ended up with that car?
Well, that started a long time ago. 2006 when we picked up the car. Parents are coming back from a great aunt's funeral, actually, and they'd seen the car on the way into town. And they caught the car got the guy's information on the way back out of town after the funeral and the processions had gone down. And we picked the car up within a couple weeks after that. I've had the car since I was 16. It's my first car, not just my first drift car. And yeah, it started off as a father-son, you know, getting in the car, learning how to drive, project, back and forth, stuff like that. And then once I started welding in auto body class, it just took off from there. I just started cutting into it, and I had like race car in mind with everything. So all the stuff from the start, I was doing things in thinner sheet metal and trying to figure out ways to just brace it up to be lighter and get away with like making stuff out of thinner materials. And then from there, that's kind of been the approach, like starting with like where the rubber meets the road and starting at the back of the car forward, fixing with the rust, getting the chassis sorted out, brakes and tires and better stuff like that, making her handle a little bit better. We grew up near the river and stuff, so we used to love to run back road. It was half gravel, half asphalt and stuff, running along a bunch of the horse farms and other fields and like the hunting quarter roads out there. So it was more so for me just about doing like Dukes of Hazzard style stuff was our flavor of what we enjoyed, running around trying to keep up with our friends and other rich kids with their fast cars. So it was more so to me trying to figure out how to not slow down with the old girl as opposed to making more power and stuff, because she always carried enough torque with just even having a 318 till we swapped that out for a 5.9 after the original one jumped timing because the original plastic gear or whatever sheared. Mm-hmm. And then she just shut off one day in traffic.
Oh, that's a terrible place for that. What is like the current setup on that car now? You said
you're talking drivetrain, you're talking chassis. You know?
Let's go with drivetrain, and then we'll talk about chassis.
Okay, so the drivetrain, it's simple. Starting with the front, we just got a junkyard, 5.9 long block in there right now, with some bolt-ons, Harlan Sharp roller rockers, Edelbrock intake, MSD distributor. It's got a Holley Sniper EFI throttle body setup on there, and headers. Backed by just a T56. I swapped between a GTO and an F-body one because I got a couple that I pulled out of the junkyard, and depending on what we're doing, the gear ratios are different in those different units, but that's not that big of a deal. Then in the back, we have a Chrysler 8 3/4 rear with a 390 on a spool.
Okay.
pretty simple, pretty Mopar still, you know.
Yeah. And
My
then,
T56s are out of GM cars. Everybody used that transmission, so.
and then going into suspension wise, did you the main thing I'm really curious about is like, have you done anything to like add angle to the front of the car, to your wheel angle, or your turning radius? You know what I mean.
We've played with steering, yes, but not in any angle or mounting point or locations respect or any of that type of stuff. The only thing I've done is I've actually downgraded to some people. We ditched the power steering. We went to a manual steering box because that original shit was heavy as all hell. Cast iron box, pump, the fluid, all that stuff, so much dead weight. The original manual boxes for those are aluminum housings. So I took one of those, took the original 23-to-1 ratio gear out, replaced that with a 16-to-1 brand new Worm sector gear from Firm Feel. They do all Mopar suspension, road race stuff like that, and a bunch of things. So I put their brand new setup inside of that for a 16-to-1 internal gear ratio. And then what I have are a parts bin Mopar thing, the 1970 AAR CUDA and the 70 Trans Am Challengers had a fast ratio steering setup from the factory too for 1 year only Trans Am racing stuff. I have the Pitman and idler arms from those cars, which are a little bit longer. So that takes it to about 13-to-1 on the steering ratio. And those could potentially give a little bit more steering angle if my wheel specs were right. Because with the current off-the-shelf wheels that I have from Koenig, we rub on the inside and the outside on the frame rail on the front and the back side.
Oh,
we have
man.
the sway bar up front, and we touch the rail out back. So I don't even actually have all of the potential angle out of the car. We just rock with what I'm limited to by having that, angle stop on the actual tire itself.
Angle
but other than that, it's
on
just
the
fast
tire
ratio.
itself.
So it's just a fast ratio. I have about a 13 and a half inch steering wheel. Nothing crazy big, downside significantly from the old boat wheel that used to be on there. It was like 17 or 19 inches in diameter, the original wheel. So just having like a fatter grip steering wheel and having that in the ratio, it's super nice because like it's only like 3 turns lock to lock. So it's like off center. It's only like one whole revolution. So I'm not like I have pretty lanky arms, so I'm happy that I'm not throwing my boats and having to do a whole bunch of hand over hand stuff. I can just do nice, simple, good inputs, and it's one of my favorite upgrades I've actually done because I did that as a street upgrade way before we ever thought about drifting the car, and I just had the car set up that way when we finally decided to slide. And overall, that fast ratio stuff has been one of my favorite things that I've just ever done to the car, hands down.
That is pretty wild. I'm not gonna lie. I did not expect that thing to have manual steering. Huh.
It works out good. Like my whole philosophy was like, it's going to be hard to turn, but I'm not going to pull it like 2 whole turns. I'm only going to pull on it for 1 turn.
Right.
So it's like I only got to muscle it for a little bit. And it's worked out. As long as I'm not stuck in a parking lot and having to stand on my brakes, it's not so bad.
Okay.
The feel is great. The road feel, because that old power steering, man, like when you're over 100 miles an hour with like original muscle car power steering, it's too easy. It's too good. It just like I can just tap it with my pinky and the thing will just start floating.
Yeah, I can see that actually. Now that I'm really thinking about it, you have a handbrake in that thing as well.
I do. But if you watch any of my videos, it's not a part of my driving style, and it needs some tweaking before it's going to be like an actual, like fully functioning weapon for me. It doesn't quite lock up under dry conditions for me every time I need it. So it's I haven't got it consistent, so I just drive around it. So
is it still leaf springs in the back, or do they come with leaf springs?
Yeah, it's originally a leaf spring car. We just have a big block leaf pack in it, as opposed to the small block spring, the worn out. Man, when we got this car, it was the leaf springs, the torsion bar shocks, all that stuff were so wore out that we would take a left turn and stomp the gas, and we'd roll up onto 3 wheels, and we lift the left front tire. It would just roll over and then start rubbing on the passenger side tire on the inner side of the wheel well because it was just rolled over so far. And when we got it, it had 275 60-15s out back. So like it would just roll over and just rub that one tire on the outside because it was fatter. Once it leaned over, you just hear it. But yeah, you'd see a little bit of. I'd had a couple times where I had some friends following, and so like we stomped it and like asked, and they're like, "Yeah, we saw light between the tire and the road."
That sounds a little terrifying. I'm not gonna lie to you.
It was a nice smooth ride, you know. It was just like when we really stomped it and specifically turned left because you know like the torque of the motor, that's how it wants to lift. You know, because it wouldn't do that when we turned right. It would just level out and take it actually pretty nice on the turn on the right on throttle when we first picked it up. But, but yeah. So one of the first things we did is we just put big block leaf springs out back, stiffened it up, and that pretty much solved the most of the stiffness issues for a good long while until I finally graduated high school and whatnot and started looking into actual what I should do in the front end and stuff like that. Found out about Firm Feel, looked into their parts, and you know, saved up for their stuff and did a whole bunch of work on the front end. We redid brand new torsion bars, everything with that. Not like anything extra adjustability, but just like tubular control arms that Firm Feel makes, and all of the still using the stock cam bolts for the adjustments for the alignment and everything like that. All of the pickup points are all still in the factory locations, you know? It's just not stamped steel, so it doesn't flex as much. Ditched the split sleeves with the clamps for the tie rods and stuff like that, put in solid sleeves with jam nuts, and went up a size in tie rods. We pulled the tie rods, another part spin thing. We got the larger big body C-body car tie rods, the full-size cars, and we put that onto the mid-size car that mine technically is. So we went from like 9/16 diameter to 11/16, 17 millimeter-ish.
I can't wait to see your car, dude. It sounds very unconventional to what you would expect in drifting.
And it's
it
like,
really is.
And it's like, too, for me, like, as a fabricator and a hot rod, like, I was dreaming up way more stuff to do to this car. But, like, we had some stuff, like, if the people who know me long enough know the car got T-boned a while, way back. And that set us back on our drifting, actually, 5 years. Crazy enough to think. But we were dreaming up a whole bunch of other stuff to do to the car. And then it was finally just like, you know what, I'm tired of waiting. So we took it out to a local event and drove the car. Realized that I was the biggest problem at that time.
You were the biggest problem?
Yeah. So like, aside from me, main problem. Second problem, we needed to play with the alignment a little bit.
Oh, okay.
Other than that, it was seat time.
Mm-hmm.
But like, it took a little bit more seat time to realize that I was fighting the alignment, along with being just not that great, you know, like not having that much experience.
Right.
But first event, I figured out that it was mostly me, you know, and then by the second event, we realized that we just needed to tweak the alignment. And once we did that, then it was just all getting seat time, and I've just been driving the car, aside from swapping out some wheel studs and stuff like that. But like, so first event, I was out doing laps all morning, not having like greatest success, you know, like if I'd actually, I street drove the car to my first event. So like I was real close to just like going and finding a corner to cry in because I didn't have a truck to go hide in. And then I looked over and saw that my buddy had popped the motor in his car. So I pulled up and I handed him the keys. And he's never even been for a ride in my car or drove it. Okay, he went out and threw it around 3 laps better than I had all day. So right there, I was just like, okay, I know the problem now. So we spent the rest of the day just, you know, whittling at the line that he showed me that worked, and having a lot more fun than I started out at, you know? And then picked a different track for the next event, which is a great starter track that we have local to us, Shenandoah Speedway. Spent a lot of time down there figuring out the car way back in the day before all the drama happened with that place. And after the second event, realized that I was fighting the car not trying to like self-steer itself in transition. I was literally having to push it through every motion with that, just with how we had the alignment set up. So me and my buddy tweaked that, and then the only thing I've done is just, you know, change tires. We had to change a motor at one point. I broke the transmission since then. You know, but other than that, I haven't actually like had to change the suspension or anything yet, you know. Haven't actually plateaued completely yet. We know where we want to tweak, but we're still able to get around and get a whole lot of seat time at a whole lot of tracks with the current setup and have a blast with a whole lot of great drivers too. And I can't believe like how far this car has made it stock, because it also like, it makes me so happy to think about how much potential is still on the table with the car.
Yeah, for sure. So how long ago was that first event? How long ago was that?
Like, it was either 2019 or 2020, but it was the last event of Summit Point for the season. It was the 100 Drifters of December. 100 Drifters of December blowout banger event. 2 days. They have the entire facility. All the main road courses are open to us, even the main course. And so, part of the reason why I chose that event is because it was one event, and then there was no more. Take some winter off, and if we had to tweak the car, we were going to tweak the car, and then we ended up having the whole winter off because I was the biggest problem, so we just needed to wait for the season to start back up. And then, yeah, so it's only been at most, this is like, I want to say my 4th season, you know, and we haven't quite hit the end, you know, like that turning point, but it's only like 3 or 4 years that I've actually been sliding the car. You know, I've had it for like 18 or whatever since 2006, but only been drifting it since.
Yeah, so we started roughly about the same time. This will be, at the end of this year, will be my 3rd year. And yeah, I totally understand that when you're going to events constantly, it's just impossible to slow down, work on the car for like a month or 2 or whatever, how long it takes to make those modifications. So how were you feeling, man, whenever I started reaching out to everybody and getting all these other old school drivers together for the Summit Point event where you were like, yeah, nope, schedule cleared, I'm going to be there?
Like, I'm just like, this is great too, especially when we pick Summit, because I'm just like, well, it's couldn't be any more convenient for me now with just like the fact that we landed on that choice, because it was just like, it's an event that I'd probably be at anyway, you know?
It was a really difficult choice to find something that was like a good distance away at the time, because I think, what was this, early March or May or whenever when we started talking about doing this?
I think it was May. I think it was right after Hyperfest, because we've talked about trying to drive at Hyperfest, and that hasn't landed. You know, with everybody scoring tickets with the, you know, the rat race that it ends up being to get your driver's slots for that event.
That event is on my bingo card. I just have yet to actually get out. And I mean, events like that are tough anyways, because it's good. Like, you know, like Summit Point, it's 10 hours away from me. So, I mean, I got to give kudos to these guys that are, you know, it's very convenient for you, but some of these, like David Leffel, JJ, me, and there was Al who was in Michigan, but he popped a motor, so he's not going to be making up. But, you know, we're looking at, you know, 10, 12 hours of driving, and, you know, like, so thankful that, you know, we have friends over there now, you know, all you guys to, you know, help us out, you know, if anything does happen.
A great drift community where we're at, you know, very widespread and very welcoming too. So like, that's what I'm saying. Like, when you guys picked this location, I was like, this is great, you know, like this is going to be awesome. It's going to be a great event. The people there, they're going to love it. Like the staff, the event, all of it. Everybody wants to get there. They love my car when it comes through, the tech inspector guys and everything like that. And we have a lot of locals too that fit the bill. You know, so it's going to be a good, fun time, especially if we can bring out some real monsters for Halloween. Like, I'm super stoked about that, you know?
Yeah, I mean, it was also, as far, I remember when we first got this together, everybody, including me, said we want a road course and we want it more than 2 days, because everybody's got to travel like crazy distances. And I mean, man, Summit Point just fit the bill so well, and it worked out because, you know, the majority of you guys are already there, so it's been awesome. I mean, they fell in love with the idea as soon as I presented it to them, and these last few months we've definitely put the transmission and gear to get a lot of different things rolling, and man, I'm pumped. I've been meaning to download it on Assetto Corsa and start practicing the track to get a little edge on these other guys. I got to show you guys what's up. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it'll help a little bit. Yeah, it's one of those, like, Summit. It's super fun to get it because of the technicality to it in the beginning, because I'd say it's kind of a skinny road course. So you making the entire line is very dependent on starting in the right place on the first turn, you know? So once you get that down, everything flows out from there, and you have a blast just boogieing through there. And these road courses are solid 3rd, 4th gear courses, you know? So it's so much fun wagging through there, especially with the one that we're going to be running, because I'm pretty sure we're on Shenandoah for this event, we're going to have like a miniature carousel replica from Nürburgring, and Big Ben, the big sweeper at the end, is a super fun, fast fourth gear flying. Yeah. With a nice bunch of little transitions in between to get to both of these major sections. And it's a good, super good time on the one side. And then the other side called Pistol Grip, there's a whole nother section laid out too. That's a big fun with elevation changes throughout the entire course too, which is always a good time because you're coming over blind turns and floating into stuff and then pushing out and powering through and just boogieing down. It's so much fun. We're all gonna have a blast just being able to just like let things loose, you know, in a way that we maybe not always get to.
Is it your favorite track, or is there any particular other track that definitely stands out to you, like what is Virginia International Raceway, such like that? Because I can tell you one of my favorite tracks, believe it or not, is actually a parking lot. I don't know why, but it just, for whatever reason, the way this parking lot works is just so much fun. So is Summit Point, any particular course there your favorite, or is there somewhere else that you'd like to go?
It's hard for me to pick one. Like, I mean, Summit Point has definitely got my heart in a way because it was the first place that I experienced drifting ever. Went to Hyperfest for the first time in 2009 at Summit Point. And like that was my introduction into drifting and stuff like that. It took me a number of years to get my car on track and actually go slide and whatnot. But that's where it started. Mm-hmm. First time I ever went for a drift ride along was in an S14 on Jefferson course, which is one of the fastest and one of the gnarliest courses that they have there. It's been until recent last few years, it was also one of the courses that was the hardest for spectators to get to and see. So it was one that at the time when I got to go for a ride, the only way to even like know it was to be a driver, you know?
Wow. That is kind of cool though.
And this is like back in the day too, like, you know, this is way back before Vaughn moved out of Maryland. So he was still a local like fixture a lot of times at Summit Point being there. And I remember that same day he was there giving ride along. His dad was there, fam was out there and whatnot. They were out there with a pro car. They also had like a gold Ford Ranger that they were just wagging out the whole time. And I don't know, yeah. So it's like it's my home track for sure. It's like it's where it all started. But I'm also super spoiled where I live because we have within like a 5-hour radius, and this includes VIR being at the very edge of that radius. We have the 4 courses at Summit. We got Dominion Raceway off of 95, like an hour and a half south of me, which is like a 2-mile long road course, and it's wider than Summit, so you have more options for lines. But there's only one road course. Then we have New Jersey and a bunch of great facilities up there, and that's New Jersey's only about 2.5, 3 hours away for those tracks. And then we have Shenandoah Speedway also, which is like our all asphalt kind of parking lot type, you know, beginner track that a whole lot of people started at, you know, and have that like, you know, love affair with, because it's just like the first place they got to go. It's a nice oval speedway, and it's like talking about like just the structure of it, all asphalt from wall to wall, no grass anywhere in between, so we can run the banks. It doesn't have gnarly transitions between the midfield to the banks, so we have a ton of options of being able to transition down and run through the slipperier in midfield section that they have with a coned off section, setting up seat containers, setting up jersey walls and picture boxes for photographers and whatnot, and being able to run around through all of there. So we have so many options. You know, I have like over like between 5 to 10 courses that I can like pick through them throughout my season to go run. And then also with getting on and doing Drift Week stuff, I've gotten access to a whole bunch of really cool tracks, and even got exclusive access to one of my when we were at Summit, we got a different layout for the same courses that I'd already run, so I actually got to experience shooting from pistol grip into the other side of Shenandoah, which is something that we never do. Normally we stage cars and have a grid right there, but for the first time ever, I got to blast through there in the top of 3rd gear.
Nice.
You know?
Nice.
Type of thing like that. You always want to do it, but there's too many people and you know, flaggers and stuff. You can't get away with it. But here we got to have that extra access, and I got to fucking come through there and be like, oh man, you know, I'm never going to experience this again either, you know, type of thing.
That,
So I don't know, it's like I can't
pretty
answer
neat.
what my favorite one is. I just know I like driving,
Yeah.
and I want to get my car around to as many of the tracks as I can just to know what they're like and see where we stand.
Yeah. So what is like what is your long-term goals or short-term goals of this? I mean, with your car and then kind of like with drifting in itself.
Right now, I'm building her as kind of a business card, looking to I don't know, take what I have been able to learn and gather and put it to better use potentially after the next year or two. Still trying to figure out stuff with the current shop that I'm at, because we do a lot of seasonal work, and that's been drying up in a sense. So I'm kind of being pushed into figuring out different stuff. So ideally, if I can use the car to showcase the skills with the all the fabrication work being done by me and the assembly being done by me, and like kind of like that sense, the help of a few good friends here and there where the stuff's too heavy, and I need that type of help and the moral support when we pop a confetti a piston like a month before Fuel Fest last year.
Oh gosh.
And we had had a crate motor that had been doing good for the whole time that I've been drifting. We've been on this one crate motor, and then that season the Transit decided to show that it was having some hurt into it, and I've been locked out of fourth gear for the end of the season. One of the synchro keys broke, and I just couldn't shift into fourth. So we were stuck in third, and it just didn't like that, and we completely confettied number 3 piston last July.
God,
and
please.
Luckily, I had several junkyard motors laying around. Took the best parts out of one or the other and whatever, and put that together, and we've had that motor rocking for the last year.
The junkyards over where you're at sound way better than the ones where I'm at. I gotta tell you, after hearing this whole interview, I'm like, those junkyards over there sound way better.
Well, here, I'm picking up second-gen Dodge Rams like Durango and Dakota. So a lot of them are rusted out. A lot of them have, crappy wiring or PCMs that are fried or a bad transmission, But the 5.9s are usually doing pretty good, and I just strip them down to a long block and then reassemble my timing cover, oil pan, intake manifold for the old, just the older setup, because all that stuff bolts on to the short block that comes in those trucks. Same with my old motor mounts and stuff like that. They have the old ears. It all just bolts right on and it just drops right in.
Huh. It's
so
the little equivalent of the LS 5.3 to everybody else.
Yeah, exactly. So, and since it's a bell housing thing, so it's a thing. It's like nobody makes the adapters really to put a Magnum in anything else. So it fits my bill because nobody else wants them at this time, at least for now. So
it's like after this interview, I may have problems.
I'm glad the last one I did. The last 5.9 that I picked up, I traded the original bench seat from the Satellite for that motor, straight up.
You don't need a bench seat in that car. You need a bucket seat, right?
Well, since we did the T56, we switched to buckets a long time ago because I already had to raise the tunnel and do all that type of stuff. So I'd had the seat frame just sitting out, and every now and then it'd end up kind of sitting outside for a little bit because it's big and bulky and never going to get used again. So happened to see that this dude had a 69 Roadrunner in one of the background pictures that he took of the motor. And he said that he was registered in the trades too. So I was like, what do yeah. And then he mentioned that he didn't have the right seat for it. And I was like, oh, he's like, to him, the seat frame, even if it was covered in trashed vinyl, seat frame was worth the $150 I think that he listed the motor for. And I was like, yeah, that's fine with me. It cleans up my space, gets a bunch of clutter out, and I get an engine that actually takes up less room and it's more useful. Like, hell yeah. And funny thing too, the dude was in Knoxville, Maryland, which is actually a town that is on my way on the drive to Summit Point.
Nice.
So I was just like, you're just on the way to there's nothing inconvenient about this.
Yeah, everything here is a total win. So, You said the car's on the trailer ready to go for Summit Point?
Yeah, I'll probably air up a tire or two. I think one of the burners has got a leak in it. But other than that, yeah, she's sitting pretty. She survived Fuel Fest. We did good on that one. Had a blast. Gave a bunch of good ride-alongs. And it was blasting in fourth gear like the whole day. As soon as I could just get enough speed and get into fourth, we were just sticking it in fourth and cruising through the whole thing.
Where was that at?
Fuel Fest for us, Mid-Atlantic. That was at New Jersey Motorsports Park, so about 2.5 hours away. And it's a very nice road course. I compare it very similar feel, like drive-wise, it's very similar to Dominion Raceway. Okay. With like the way the asphalt feels and the flow of it and everything like that.
All right. Well, do you have any advice for the other drivers going to Summit Point?
Making sure that we have the right fire suits and stuff like that. That's the only thing, mainly so we can run the tandem. Just making sure you have your gloves, full suit, shoes, you know. And if you're going to bring a passenger, they need to match. You have to have matching equipment for the passenger if we want to have a passenger in tandem ride along.
Oh, okay. Well, that is actually really good advice, and I'll definitely make sure to push that message along. I think from like you said, I think everybody on that is going to be going. It looks like they pretty well have had it together for a while now. You know.
Yeah.
It is.
That's what it seems like.
Kind of crazy to think about the actual roster of old school guys that are coming, because none of them are like really new. Most of them have just been in the game and for a while, at least 2+ years. You know, I would say me and you probably have the least amount of experience in comparison to most of those guys.
Yeah, I feel that way in a lot of the rooms that I end up driving in. It's kind of like weird. Like, I almost feel like I'm like surprised like I managed to make it here with such a stock car.
Have you gotten to drive like any like 350Zs or E46s or anything like that have been like that have like FDF kits or whatever, you know, Wise Fab or anything on them?
Not on a track. So like me and my buddies, we've all been 240 guys. So like I said, first car I ever went for a ride along in, that was an S14. First car I was ever street sliding was a KA S13. Whatnot. I actually have an S13 Vert that I've been building for far too long. And I have an S30, a 73 240Z project that's been on the side of the house getting moved around. But since like I acquired both of those as rollers, you know, different starting points compared to the satellite, you know. And like I said, I got itchy, I got tired of waiting, so we just put the satellite on track, and she just worked better than we ever expected. But yeah, so I started off, street sliding, in some S chassis. And then one shop that I worked at for a bit, we would, we'd end up, people not be able to pay for their cars. We'd end up having to put a couple liens on some stuff or whatever. We ended up with a G35 stick shift one time for a little bit. And when we had that car, I would get a little bit lazy about getting all the work done on my car if I was doing something, because I knew I could just take that car home. So I would procrastinate a little bit on some stuff just so that I'd end up not having a running car. So I'd be like, oh man, I got to take the G. And then borrow that on like a rainy evening and then take it out, have some fun sliding around with it. And those cars, like, I'd say they are a cheat code car. Like that was a totally stock G35 that we just got off the street, and I was having a blast just like sliding behind people in traffic, and the car seemed like it just wanted to dance stock in that sense. But never been able to get on track, actually. Only had the satellite on track, like seriously sliding,
I definitely can't wait to see the day you get on the track with something with an angle kit. You know what I mean? Like, I hate saying it, but like a true drift car, because like what me and you drive, it just, people, they don't really consider them drift cars, and let's be real, they're not, but we sure do look cool in them.
Yeah, like not in a competitive sense, it's not like a weaponized chassis. It's a fun one. Like, it's just, it's just going out and dancing and having a blast with something that you built, and just, I can't say it enough. Like, I can't believe how well it works. Like the chassis, my car, like it likes it as much as I do, it's one of those things with my car too, now that I've realized it, now that we got it out driving.
Well, man, we have hit roughly a little over our 30-minute mark. So for our listeners out here, what is the best way to follow you on Instagram, add you on Facebook, What's the best way to watch watch your media?
Right now, it's just the Instagram, really. Everything that I post is through Instagram and just, tag to my Facebook. Whatever makes it to Facebook is, like overflow in that sense. I don't have much time to focus solely on like doing good social media on that. So it's like my quantity is not up there, but where you see it's going to be up the Mopar Maniac _301 on the Instagram.
All right, man. Well, thank you so much for your time. And, man, I can't wait to officially meet you. You know what I mean? I mean, like, we've known each other for a while. We've definitely been friends for a good while because of what we both do. But to finally officially get to meet and then run together, I just cannot wait.
Yeah, it's been at least 2 Hyperfests that we haven't been able to both get tickets for and get a driver's pass that we've been trying to drive together, let alone do the whole group thing. So that's why when you hit me up, I was just like, hell yeah, let's do this.
Dude,
like,
Dude, it's gonna be epic, man. I can't wait to see. I just can't wait. I'm so ecstatic for this.
Oh yeah, no, it's gonna be a blast. Like with what we wrangle and the locals that come out too. Like I don't know if you're gonna be ready for how many Fox bodies show up. Like, cause we have a lot of local Fox bodies. Along with, it's funny how like we have the Camaro, and now we have like 2 satellites being like local drift cars to us with that and a bunch of Fox bodies. It's like we have a wide variety of old iron slides. So it's almost like a perfect, like we said, a perfect candidate for all of this.
Yeah, the roster was actually a little low, so we did open up that to the Fox bodies, which is, in my opinion, perfectly fine because they are definitely, they're a classic American car. So I mean,
yeah. Like we were talking about with the chassis start date, like they ran for into the 90s, but the chassis started way earlier than that, Yeah. That's what we wanted to include was just like a certain generation of chassis start dates, not to exclude everybody, but just to include some, But that's also like no offense to the Mustang and Fox body buddies, but like I knew how many we had, so I knew we'd have enough local turnout that I didn't bother suggesting too many.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I was kind of a little hesitant on it first because it's a very it is a weapon. As you were talking about weaponized cars, it is a weaponized car. So, that was kind of my hesitation with it. But I kind of figured, well, you know what? If these guys are willing to reach out to me and work with me and help me, then absolutely they can be part of the kind of old Iron Slides community. I don't really like to call us a necessarily a group, but more of a community.
Yeah.
So, but thank you so much for your time, Travis. Man, I'm gonna get working on this and probably have it posted here in the next couple of days. And I'll see you at some point.
Hell yeah, I'm stoked, boss. Looking forward to it.
All right, see you.